first round of applause I've gotten on my travels, so thank you. My name is Greta Adornetto, and I'm a recruitment coordinator with the Office of Undergraduate Admissions. I graduated from Michigan, and I got my degree in communication studies, and then went on to get my master's degree in higher education student affairs, so that I could come back and stay in college forever and never ever have to leave it because I loved it so much. But I've had the Illinois territory, the suburb territory, for about 3 years, so I'm pretty well versed on the opportunities you have here at your schools. So I will be the one that is one of the people reviewing your application, so you can kind of put a face to the application process so it doesn't feel so anonymous when you're filling out all of those applications that I'm sure you have a lot of options out there. But going around, I do have a sign-in sheet. That's for my purposes, so I can see which of you attended. When I'm reviewing applications, I can see who attended this meeting here today. And then I set some documents around for you guys to look at. How many of you have been to the University of Michigan? Great, so a handful of you. I imagine that you liked what you saw on campus, or you wouldn't be sitting here, but can you tell me some things that you liked about Michigan? Yeah.
It was a very, expansive campus, I guess, and there was, a ton of, transportation, and it seemed very urban.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so at the University of Michigan, we're located in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and the city and the campus are really intertwined, which is probably what I loved about Michigan the most. Everything was at your fingertips. I never had a car on campus all 4 years that I was there. I didn't need to have it on campus. But there was always something going on for me to do, whether it's our year-round farmers market, or we have over 1,300 clubs and organizations for students to participate in. There's really, literally everything you can imagine going on our campus. It's really engaged politically. So, election time is coming up, and we have a lot of students that are going out and, they're making sure that people are aware of the current issues. So it's a really engaged campus as well as an engaged city. If you ever come to a Michigan football game, you'll notice that the entire city kind of focuses on football for that day. And you'll see, there's a lot of traffic that day, but I think it's a good representation of how well the city and the campus work together. And so that just gives you one idea of that they're not separate. It's not like you take one step and you're like, oh, I'm not on campus anymore. They're really intertwined. It's a really safe campus. We have the University of Michigan police, and then we have Ann Arbor police, and they really patrol kind of the same areas, so you kind of have double the safety precautions there on campus as well, which is a nice benefit, and I'm sure your parents are very concerned about as well. So anyone else that has visited, what have you liked about Michigan? Anyone? Yeah?
Well, I came during spring break, and I think that's when classes were still going on at the campus, and there were a lot of people, I guess, walking around, and it was a very busy campus life, and everyone seemed pretty content. I asked a couple people about how they thought about Michigan, and they said that it's a really safe environment and really interesting and full of different types of people from all over the world.
Yeah, I'm really surprised on campus how there's always someone out. Even, in the middle of the night, there are people out, doing random things. If you're out, some of our libraries are open 24 hours a day. You'll never be the only one in the library studying. So if you waited to the last minute and need to pull that all-nighter, hopefully you'll be more prepared than that. But in the rare chance that happens, there'll be someone there with you. So you never feel like the campus is really shut down or quiet. There's always people around for you. And I think that for me catches a lot of energy. So you don't, when you need to study, there's other people studying around you. So that gives you energy to continue studying. In terms of the application process, the first thing that you need to know is when you're looking at the University of Michigan, you're going to apply into a specific school or college. And we do have 7 freshman admitting units. On one of the flyers that I hung out, can you mind if I steal yours really quick? On the back of this one, that's going around. On the back of it, here are all the majors that are listed, and they're color-coded by the specific school or college that you would apply into. So that is something that you will have to narrow down for the application process. And this will really be where you're going to start your academic career at Michigan. There are opportunities to do transferring between the different schools and colleges if you do decide later on down the line that you've changed interests and you want to transfer to a different school or college. That's totally fine too. We call it a cross-campus transfer. It's very common. But we want you to do as much work on the front end figuring out which school or college is interesting to you for the application process. How many of you in this room are seniors? Okay, so a handful of you guys. So in terms of interests, what are you guys interested in hearing about? Because I don't want to go over schools that no one's really interested in, but what are some careers you're maybe interested in or majors that you've heard that you might be interested in going into? Yeah.
The nursing school.
The nursing school, great, I'll touch on that.
Business.
Business, yeah.
Material science and engineering.
Okay, so engineering, yep.
Psychology.
Psychology, I saw another hand I thought.
Theater production and design.
Okay, great. So I'll start with our College of Literature, Science, and Arts. This is our liberal arts education. And so in our College of Literature, Science, and Arts, you're going to get 2 years of coursework across the disciplines before you declare your major. That's where the majority of the university is located, or courses are located. So whether you're in the College of Literature, Science, and Arts or not, you're going to be taking classes that are LS&A. Like I said, 2 years of coursework across the disciplines before you declare your major. Because of that, this is a really great place for a student that is interested or not sure of what they want to study yet. An undecided student could apply into that, try out some classes first, and then declare their major. In terms of an academic preparation, we're looking for 4 years of English as well as 2 years of the same foreign language. With the foreign language, we don't require you to do beyond 2 years. However, when you come into the College of Literature, Science, and Arts, there is a 2-year foreign language proficiency requirement. So it is beneficial for you to continue on with that foreign language so that when you're coming into the College of Literature, Science, and Arts, you don't have to kind of start from scratch and remember where you left off of if the last time you took a foreign language was in 10th grade. Or 9th or 10th grade. So beyond LS&A, our College of Engineering, with our College of Engineering, this is a school that's really heavily focused on the math and science curriculum. For that, we're looking specifically for 4 years of math and science in high school, chemistry, calculus, and physics specifically. So we want to see you taking those courses and at the highest level that you can. If there's honors and AP levels of those courses available, we want you to be taking them. However, we understand that with scheduling, that sometimes you can't get all APs of those courses. You kind of have to craft your schedule based upon the availability, and sometimes, an AP Physics might be scheduled at the same time as an AP Chemistry. We understand that that happens, so you're not a less competitive student if you can't get all 3 APs in that out of those 3. We just want you to be challenging the curriculum as much as possible with that. Engineering is the only school that we're going to look at a specific sub-score on your tests. We're looking for a 28 or higher on your math ACT or a 650 or higher on the math SAT. And that counts for the new SAT and the old SAT with that one. In engineering, there's a lot of great opportunities for you to get kind of hands-on design experience. That's probably the coolest part about engineering is that you don't get to just read about things in books, that they have a large portion of their curriculum is devoted to creating, designing, and then building and testing and retesting. And so you'll see that a lot of your work is group projects. So you're working with other engineers to tackle a problem and figure out ways to improve what you've already designed. So this is a great way for you to kind of get that hands-on experience. Another way is outside of the classroom in our student project teams. And those are all housed in a 20,000 square foot warehouse. And in there, these aren't just engineering students that are part of the student teams. They could be a business student or maybe theater and production student that maybe just has an interest in whatever's being created. A student could come in and work on that project. It doesn't have to be specifically their major to be a part of it. And probably our most notable team is our solar car team. So the solar car team goes and it competes racing from point A to point B based on completely solar power. And we just won our 6th consecutive North American Challenge. Last year we went into the World Championships in Australia and we got 4th place. And this isn't necessarily just colleges that they're competing against. They're competing against other companies such as Mobil, Exxon, those types of companies we're competing against and we're beating them. So it's a really great environment for students to learn from. And a lot of times they're getting sponsorship for being in those types of teams from top companies like Ford, GM, Bosch, those types of companies. So when you're looking for internships as well as when you're graduating and looking for a job, you're already having exposure to how corporations work, as well as you're already starting to meet with them, and they can put a face to the name when they're looking for someone for internships. They can pull up your application and see that they've already worked with you in the past. So it's a really nice way to get your foot in the door with those companies. A lot of times in engineering, our students, it's not that our students aren't looking to find a job when they're graduating. A lot of times it's, they have 3 or 4 job offers that they're looking at by graduation, and they're trying to figure out which one's the best offer and where do they want to live. So they have some really great outcomes from that. So another interest was nursing. Nursing and kinesiology are 2 of our demonstrated interest schools. So our demonstrated interest schools means that you're going to take specific coursework right away in the program. You're admitted directly into the program. And sometimes these courses don't transfer to other areas of the university. And because of that, we're looking for demonstrated interest in the program in your application. So with that, that means that we're asking you to go out and find out what that field is like. For a student that's interested in nursing, that's going out and maybe doing some shadowing of a nurse. Maybe you're going out and volunteering at a nursing home. And if you can't find those opportunities, because I understand that sometimes that is hard to get those types of opportunities, maybe you're just doing an informational interview with a nurse in the area, maybe at your doctor's office. You ask a nurse if she's available and you talk to her about what is your daily life like, what are some challenges you've had, so that you understand this is what my career would look like if I went into nursing. The same can be said for kinesiology. In kinesiology, we're looking at sports management, movement science, as well as health and wellness and athletic training. So the same thing applies. We're looking for that demonstrated interest in your application. So sometimes that means doing some work with an occupational therapist or a physical therapist. If you yourself have had an injury and you've gone through physical therapy and that's really sparked your interest in that field, that would be a way that you could also demonstrate interest to us. You would just have to write about it in your application. For our School of Nursing, we do have a brand new facility that has a lot of kind of bells and whistles to it. We have a clinical simulation laboratory that has, traditional doctor's office rooms that, you'll go in and do role plays of what it's like if you just worked in a family practice. But then they also have kind of those more ER type of rooms where they have high fidelity mannequins, which means that they basically act exactly like a human being. So I went and visited there a few weeks ago, and they do have this one mannequin that does, it actually delivers a baby, and so they talked about how they can make it do all these crazy things, and I am pregnant right now, and so it was very terrifying, everything that they were describing, but they assured me that that was not a typical birth, so hopefully, they're just really setting you up to prepare you for any situation that might come your way, and so it's just one way you can become proficient in that. So when you're going out into the actual clinical settings with real patients, you know what to do because you've practiced that in a really real life situation. So the other interest I heard, theater production, so that would be in our School of Music, Theater, and Dance. This is a talent-based program. So with our talent-based program, so that's a School of Music, Theater, and Dance, Art and Design, as well as Architecture and Urban Planning, we're looking for your application that houses all your academic components, but then we're also going to ask for a portfolio or an audition. So depending on the specific majors within the School of Music, Theater, and Dance depends on whether you need an audition. With theater production, I'm not sure if there wouldn't be an audition portion, but there might be a portfolio portion for that one. What they're going to do is evaluate you based on that portfolio or audition, and then decide whether to invite you onto campus. They're going to look at your portfolio and then decide whether to invite you onto campus for an audition. So some different units don't have the audition portion, so they would just be focusing on that portfolio application. In terms of the School of Music, Theater, and Dance, that recently went through a large renovation to increase the number of practice and performance spaces. So we have a lot of different venues that you can participate in, where it's a really small venue, kind of similar to this room with the stage in the front, or we have areas where there's stages in the middle, and the audience is surrounding you. We have large auditoriums like our Hill Auditorium that can house, I think, close to 2,000 people. So really you have your wide range of places that you can participate in things there. We do have a mentorship program in our School of Music, Theater, and Dance where you're paired one-on-one with a professor from your very first year. So this makes it for a great opportunity for you really to get to know a professor really well, and they're going to mentor you throughout your time at Michigan, all 4 years. So the next program somebody asked about was business. So with our business school, this is an upper level admitting program, which means you first need to apply into one of our freshman admitting units first, and then you would start the business portion of your school in your sophomore year. If you're interested in the Ross School of Business, on your application as a freshman, you would indicate that you're interested in preferred admission. And what will happen is first we'll review you in your freshman admitting unit, and then we would pass along your information once we decide to admit you. We pass along your information to the Ross School of Business, and then they would review you at the Ross School of Business. If you were admitted for preferred admission, you'd still start in that freshman admitting unit first, take some prerequisites, as well as a specific business course designed specifically for our preferred admission students. But you're guaranteed admission into the business school as long as you maintain a strong GPA after that first year. If you had any siblings or friends that applied to the Ross School of Business in the past, you may have heard that our preferred admission is a really super selective process. And it is still a competitive program, but this year they did change the way that they're doing admission. In the past, students were able, if they were not admitted for preferred admission, they were able to apply to the Ross School of Business at the end of their freshman year of college as well. Instead, this year, we're going to accept the majority of our class through preferred admission. So in the past, it'd probably be about 20% of the entire business class was admitted for a preferred admission. Now it's going to be 80% of their class that they're admitting through that preferred admissions pool. So this makes it so that more students are knowing up front whether they're going to be admitted into the Ross School of Business. And this will help you when you're looking at other schools that might have a 4-year business program, comparing which school you want to go to on more of an even playing field instead of kind of taking that guesswork out. I don't know that I have been admitted to Ross. What if I don't get admitted to Ross, but I'm admitted to this 4-year business program? Which should I choose? There's a lot of uncertainty there. So hopefully this process will take kind of that guesswork out of that. New to the Ross School of Business, they do have a portfolio requirement on the Common Application. So with that, they're asking for either an essay to be answered, answered, as well as or an artifact to be submitted. And if you do have a question about that, I don't want to take up too much time on that. Come talk to me afterwards, and I can give you a little bit more information about what that portfolio looks like. But it is new to us this year, but you do submit it through the Common Application. Are there any other interests that I might not have touched on? All right. So in terms of the application process, we are a school that uses the Common Application. Has anyone started their application? Oh, good, good. How's it been so far? Okay, Common Application's hard. It's a very long application, so I understand if it does cause a bit of stress. We have to fill it out every year as counselors to see what it's like, so I understand how hard it can be. But with the Common Application, you can submit that application to over 500 different schools there. We are an early action school, so our very first deadline is November 1st. So what that means is if you get all your materials in by November 1st, then we guarantee you a decision by December 24th. If you are admitted, it is a non-binding decision, so you still have until May 1st to decide whether the University of Michigan is a good fit for you, which I hope you do determine that. But you do have until that May 1st deadline to determine that, and you're not bound to us at all, unlike an early decision school, which would be your top choice that you're really applying to. The other deadline is our February 1st deadline, where you'll receive a decision by mid-April. The review process for both of these deadlines is the same. The difference would be that our most interested students are applying for early action, so if you are strongly considering Michigan, I definitely encourage you to apply for early action. But also, if you're looking for any scholarship considerations, definitely apply by that November 1st deadline. When you submit your Common Application, you're automatically considered for any merit-based scholarships. There's no external forms you need to fill out. You'll automatically be considered for that. And in terms of when we're reviewing the application, what we do is a holistic review. We receive over 55,000 applications, so we really need to look beyond just the numbers that we're receiving from students. At the core, we need to make sure you're academically prepared to handle the rigor at Michigan. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at your GPA. We're going to put your GPA on a 4.0 scale, so an A minus A plus is a 4.0, B minus B plus is a 3.0, and so on and so forth. So you can see on one of the cards that I passed out today, a 3.87 was our average GPA last year. We don't have any cutoffs for GPA, so if your GPA isn't a 3.87, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't apply. It just means that you might have some other aspects of your application that we'd really be looking for you to shine in. No one part of the application is more important than the other. Since we do a holistic review, we're taking into account everything that you are submitting to us. Beyond just the straight GPA, we're looking for your academic versus your non-academic courses. If you have all A's in your non-academic courses, but then you have all B's in your academic courses, your GPA isn't really a true indicator of your performance. We want to see strong curriculum and a strong GPA. So when I talk about academic courses, what I'm talking about is your math, English, science, social studies, computer science. Those are the courses that I consider academics. Classes like nursing classes, business courses, those are really great courses to take and show interest in fields that you're interested in, but we don't consider them an academic. So you'll want to make sure that you have a really strong academic schedule first, and then are adding in those more elective courses after you have a strong schedule already. We're going to count the number of academic courses that you have, and then we're also going to look at the number of honors and AP courses that you've taken. We do evaluate you within the context of your school, so we're going to look to see how many honors and AP level courses are offered here and how many you've taken. doesn't mean you have to take every single AP course. That would be virtually impossible, and you'd be really stressed out all the time. So, play to your strengths. If you're not applying to the College of Engineering and you really hate calculus, don't take AP Calculus. Instead, take an AP Spanish instead if that's really where your strengths lie, and you're not applying to engineering. We want to see those different types. We're not going to look too specifically at those, if you're applying to the College of Literature, Science, and Art. So play to your strengths with that. If you're taking any classes at a community college or another institution, you'll want to make sure you are putting that in your application so that we know that you're taking those courses. Sometimes your course load can look a little bit weaker because we're not seeing those dual enrollment courses because they don't come up on your transcript. So you have to make sure that you're telling us in one way or another. There's an additional information section in the Common Application that you can submit that to. And then there's also for your senior year schedule, if you're taking any of your senior year, you can manually input that those are the classes that you're taking. So one of your counselors mentioned that a lot of students take math courses at a community college around here. So that's definitely something. You make sure you write that in your senior year schedule so that we can take that into consideration. Beyond the curriculum, the last part of the academic review is your test scores. Make sure you're submitting your test scores by the deadlines. It does take some time for us to get those test scores, so make sure you're requesting them with enough time. They must be sent directly from the testing agency. We accept scores from the ACT, the old SAT, and the new SAT. So we do accept all of those test scores. So if you're worried that one score was weaker than the other, like you took the old SAT and you scored really strongly, but then you took the new SAT and that one's not as strong, definitely send them both in. We'll look to see which would make you the most competitive when we're looking at your application. It must include the writing portion at least one time that you take the test. The other things we're going to look at are your recommendation letters. We require one academic teacher recommendation letter, and we don't require your counselor to submit a recommendation letter, but they can submit one on your behalf. What we have found that if you submit 7 recommendation letters, usually the first one would have been sufficient. We're not getting any new information from all those additional recommendation letters. So just stick to the one academic teacher recommendation letter, and if your counselor writes one as well, then that's fine as well. We're going to look at your extracurricular activities. We want to see 4 years of sustained involvement, and we also want to see you stepping into leadership roles. So even as a senior, if you haven't stepped into any leadership roles yet, it's not too late. You can still do that. You can write, that you're running for a officer position or something like that if you haven't necessarily stepped into that role quite yet. With the essays, that's the last part of our review. The essays are something that we're going to look to see who you are as a student. This is the only place we get to see your voice. We don't do interviews, so this is really where you make yourself stand out. For the essays, you're going to submit one, which is through the Common Application, and there's a lot of different prompts you can choose from. One of these is talk about a time that you've experienced failure and how did you overcome that. That one is probably the one we most commonly see. First of all, make sure you talk about how you actually overcame the problem. A lot of times students leave that out, and that's really the whole purpose of the essay. And the other thing is just thinking about really what makes you unique and what is your personal story. A lot of students write about getting bad grades on exams or getting cut from a sports team. These are really common topics that a lot of students in high school encounter. So it really doesn't give me any new information about you, and some of that information I can see in other aspects of your application. So tell me something that's unique about you. You're all very unique and individual students, so just tell your own story in that. The other 2 essays are going directly to Michigan. We have our community essay, which talks about what community you're a part of. This could be a traditional community, or it could be something such as maybe you're the first student in your school, or first student in your family to go away to college, so you're a first-generation college student, or maybe you're a first-generation American student, you could talk about your experience with that as well. Or it could be something related to your academic interest. If you're interested in the robotics team and or you've been participating in the robotics team and you're interested in engineering, and being a participant in the robotics teams has really fostered your interest in engineering, then you can talk about how that community has impacted your engineering interest. Then the last essay is the Why Michigan essay, and the Why Michigan essay is really where we're going to ask you to do your research about Michigan, dig a little bit deeper beyond the statistics. We know when we were founded, so you don't have to put that in there. Go a little bit deeper than that. Think about what exactly you like about Michigan. Why are you even going through all the trouble to submit this application? What is special to you about Michigan? So this could be a professor that you're interested in studying with, a club that you're interested in participating in. Maybe it's research that you want to be a part of, that you're passionate about. Those are the types of things that show us that you've done your research and understand what is special about the University of Michigan. The demonstrated interest is something that we definitely are looking for in the application because we want to admit students that want to come to Michigan. So you could be a perfect academic student, but if you're not showing that strong interest in Michigan, that could be something that can impact the admissions decision, because we want students that want to come to Michigan, and we don't want you to just collect admissions letters. We want those students that are really strongly considering Michigan, and that really shows through in your essays. So I know I went through a lot just there. What time does this period end?
3 o'clock.
Oh, okay, so we still have quite a bit of time. But I want to leave a few minutes for you guys. Do you guys have any questions? Yeah.
If we were looking to double major, but our two majors were in two separate schools, would we have to submit two separate applications then to those schools?
Yeah, so it depends on the school or college that you're going to be a part of. So in the case of School of Music, Theater, and Dance, and in another school, all of our talent-based programs participate in something called dual applications, because we're not just looking at you academically, we're looking at you talent-wise as well. So because of that, it makes it a little bit more selective in the admissions process. So we do give you that opportunity to do a dual application, and I definitely encourage you to do that. On the common application, you'll just click that you want to do a dual application, and you'll fill out both requirements for both schools. You'll be reviewed separately, so you could be admitted to one but not the other, admitted to both, or denied from both. If you're admitted to the talent-based school but not to the other school, let's say you're doing School of Music, Theater, and Dance and the College of Literature, Science, and Arts, and you got into the School of Music, Theater, and Dance, you could easily add on that College of Literature, Science, and Arts degree later on down the line, and you wouldn't have to fill out an application for that one. You would just add it on. When you're going from school to school and you're wanting to add on a different major, that's called a dual degree. If you're working within one school, we call that a dual major. So dual degrees could add on some time to your time at Michigan. So if you're looking at maybe the College of Engineering and the Ross School of Business and combining them together, you're going to need to fulfill all the requirements for both of those schools. So because of that, typically that would take you about 5 years to finish. If you're doing a dual major, let's say you are interested in psychology and biology, those are both within the College of Literature, Science, and Arts, so you're only fulfilling the degree requirements for the College of Literature, Science, and Arts, and then the specific major requirements as well. So that's more typically done within that 4-year scope. It's when you're adding on a completely separate degree, that's when it can kind of extend your time at Michigan. Yeah.
How much is like the average classroom size?
Yeah, so in general, our student to faculty ratio is about 15 to 1. I would say that this type of classroom is pretty typical at Michigan. 80% of our classes have less than 50 students in them. Your freshman year, you will have some of those larger lecture halls. Psych 111 is a really great example. That will have close to 400 to 500 students in it. But it's also paired with a discussion section that will have closer to 20 to 30 students in it. So you'll have a graduate student instructor, and these aren't just, you know, some Joe Schmo off the street teaching those classes. They're usually PhD candidates in that field. So they're basically professors. So a lot of times at larger schools, kind of the downside of larger schools, you know, TAs teaching your classes. We call them GSIs, graduate student instructors. These are students that are very committed in their field. Sometimes to get a PhD, it takes you 6 years. So they have gone to school for a very long time to get that PhD in their field. So they're very well versed, and they're going over the same information that you learned in your lecture hall. So they're not adding in additional information. They're just helping you make sure you understand what is going on in the lecture more in depth. And that's where you'll get a lot of good engagement with your peers in the class, and you'll have more of that discussion portion to the material. So that happens with every single large lecture hall. You will never just have a large lecture and that's all that you're getting. It's always paired with that discussion section. But even those large lectures are far and few between. We cap our math and foreign language classes at about 35 students, or 20 students, sorry, and then our English classes we cap at about 35 students. We have first year seminars that kind of help you with that transition from high school into college. It kind of shows you how to interact with a professor. And those are capped at about 18 students. So we do have caps on some of those classes where, you know, we have seen traditionally students might struggle in those classes. So we'll cap them at a smaller number so that you are getting that individualized attention. Any other questions? Yeah.
I would like to major in creative writing and literature. So is the LSA residential college part of the regular LSA?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So the question was about the residential college. The residential college it's basically a smaller liberal arts college within the context of the university. So for a student that is maybe considering other smaller colleges, this would be a good place for you because it's you're really getting a creative exploration of the humanities and arts. They have the RC Players, which is a theater troupe, and then they have a lot of art classes that you can take. They have one of the last dark rooms on campus within the residential college. There is a 2-year live-in requirement with the residential college as well as a foreign language proficiency requirement. But it really is, you're living and learning together with students. Your residence hall is where you're taking some of your classes. So it's the teachers that you're having classes with have their offices within the same building as well. So you're really getting to know your professors as well as your classmates really well. So it gives you that feel of a smaller school, but you still have all those opportunities of a larger university, you know, such as research as well as the wide array of classes that you can take. So you can take classes within the RC or outside of the RC. So it's kind of the best of both worlds with that one. Yeah.
For the application for how would you go around like supplementary, I guess, kind of different like pieces, like if you do research outside of school, I guess, how would you be able to work that into your application?
Yeah, so with that, you would just need to mention it in your extracurriculars. We don't need to see your research papers. With that, you can just write it in your extracurriculars or additional information if you feel like the extracurriculars you don't have enough room to talk about your experience, or you could talk about it in one of your essays that you've done. Again, if it's something that has cultivated your interest in a field of study and that's why you want to study it, then that's a great place to write it in one of the essays. But you can submit supplemental materials. It'll just slow down your file, and it's not really worth it to send it in. We'll look at it, but we're not going to strongly consider it as much as the other pieces of your application. So just mentioning it is plenty sufficient. Yeah.
What's the AP credit policy?
Yeah, so we do accept AP credit. On our website, you can see a comprehensive list of which courses we do accept and what we accept them for. Typically, we're looking for a 4 or a 5 on the AP exam, and it depends on which major you're in, what we'll accept it at. what score we'll accept and then what it's going to come in as. Some majors, the course will come in as a departmental credit, which means it'll come in as credit that will be counted as more of an elective credit towards the 120 or so credits you need for graduation. Other courses, it will count as an exact course. So let's say AP Calculus, it might count for some majors as Math 115, which is our calculus course. So if that's a requirement in your major, you can skip over that. A lot of times we use it just for you to get to the next higher level. You will take a math placement test as well as some language placement tests that in conjunction with those together can test you out of those requirements, but that's a conversation you'll have with your advisor during orientation of whether it's a smart idea for you to skip those courses and whether you're getting credit for them as well.